did this TED Talk years ago, right? And then now some random group of students in the United States is watching it and getting some.
Yeah, that's what I love about it, you know. Hey everybody, I'm on my fancy external microphone. So we're in a podcast situation. I just liked your email, Abby, and it's just these random internet connections. Usually I don't do these kind of things, but yeah, it was just so far off that I thought, okay, that's just too fun to say no to. Here we are, and it's cool.
I would love to hand it off to you to maybe introduce yourself a little.
Yeah, of course. So Leander Govinda Greitemann, actually my name's. My job is to take concepts from science or spiritual traditions or thinking traditions and then translate them in the form that people can work with it. Yeah, I grew up in rural Germany and I live in Mainz, which is close to Frankfurt. I also finished university over here. Studied economics, philosophy, and sociology. I always wanted to go in that direction, talking to adults about life philosophy. Now, at times, I also speak to students, even from schools. I have many jobs. I'm a freelancer, and so I did some one-on-one coaching. Started that during Corona pandemic, as I was able to do this via Zoom. Kind of have this now on hold again because now there are other projects again. Published my book 1 year ago, so this author thing is really fun. Currently trying to get my book to the US and other English-speaking parts of the world. So started translating it, which is really rough because I have a lot of play on words in it in German, and it's really a hard time translating it. But as I really love the English language, it's also fun, but it's like almost like rewriting the whole book. But my main job, I guess, which pays my rent and my food, is speaker. I hold speeches mostly for companies where they invite me for an 18 minutes format like TEDx, or like 1.5 hours, which I enjoy way more. Just try to energize them and give them some ideas to think outside the bubble or whatever, be more innovative, be more in contact with them and with the people around them.
You did this TED Talk years ago, right? And then now some random group of students in the United States is watching it and getting some.
Yeah, that's what I love about it, you know. You know, some TED Talks really blow up and they're like thousands of clicks. So many things went wrong about that TED Talk, to be honest. You know, starting from the prep and then the whole process. I had like one real horrible speaker coach where I departed like a few days before the TED Talk and everything. And then they kind of randomly loaded it up. We didn't even know for 4 days. So with a YouTube algorithm, it's so important to, like, the moment you upload something, I mean, you need to be quick, right? If you don't get the clicks early on, YouTube won't love the video. And we were like 4 days. Oh, by the way, your TED Talk aired 4 days ago. And I was like, what? How could that happen? I would have loved to share that with my community. My preference would have been to know it before it's up and tell everybody, 12, it's coming online, be there. Like it, watch it, you know, it's my TED Talk, hey. I mean, it's part of the topic I was talking about too, right? If you have these high expectations because everybody's like, it's the TED Talk, it's the one time of your life, and if it's got to be working, and it was so loaded up. In the end, it's just one part of the journey, and if you enjoy the process, everything's all right. Sometimes just random people write me on Instagram or somewhere, hey, I watched the TED Talk and I like that's so cool. That's the cool thing about TED, that it's so international. And if people like search for certain topics and then in connection with TEDx, obviously they're still gonna find it and engage with it and then start conversations. And this is what I really love about my work as well, to just keep people thinking, help people leaving their usual thinking patterns maybe, and then take away from it whatever they want to. They live their life a little bit more happily, a little bit more effortlessly, a little bit more creative. What I like most about my job is to really touch and move people, and to, if I can be a tiny part in changing a person's life just a little bit to the better, you know, just shifting it a little bit. On the long run, it might make a huge difference. And sometimes it even happens that some minds are blown and people are like, whoa, now I look at life in a 180-degree differently, you know. And whenever people let me know and I know that's happening, this is beautiful, right? So this is really something that fulfills me on a deeper level. Feedback gets me, moves me the most. If people write me, hey, you're such a cool guy, your speech was so good, you're so talented in conducting speeches and everything, my ego also is pushed, of course, and I'm like, yeah, cool, obviously they like my work. But what really touches me, if people don't even talk about me but just talk about them and just tell me what happened to them and what moved them. Talking about outside the bubble, I was smiling because I also like Simon Sinek's a great guy. He's a great thinker, tons of good ideas. He's very but in a German speech I held, I used his start with why and said, when it comes to your life, start with how. And it's kind of took it as an alternative perspective, which you can stand or put next to it. It's not that one is more right than the other, but there are so many people focusing on the why. And I also wanted to refocus on the how. I read a quote from Thornton Wilder, a writer from I don't know, some decades ago. And the quote goes, I have it in German. Let's see if I can translate it. Don't bother about the why and whether, just eat your ice cream while it's on your plate. And how much in every moment am I present? Am I in contact with me and the person in front of me? How much am I thinking about the future, reminiscing about the past, maybe where I should have done that differently, or shit, I should have prepared more, I should have prepared less, I should have met that person, or oh, what happens if that goes wrong? What happens if that goes wrong? Oh my God. We tend to get lost so much in thought, thinking about future and past. But maybe another way to look at it too, if I would only hold my speech to sell as many books as possible, one day I'm going to be the one talking to 15,000 people. I want to fill stadiums. No, it's cool to have visions. It's cool to have an idea or dream. If we're only doing things to achieve something in the future, and if we get lost in the dream, and we, especially if we lose the now, if we work so hard day and night because we're not having fun anymore, because we get so lost in this process, I would ask the question, do you really need that dream? Or maybe you can focus on what you can do now, what you can achieve now. And I think both is important. But if we're so lost in the idea that we need to achieve something in order to feel good, then sometimes we don't see the beauty of the moment. We might oversee the beauty of the conversation we're having right now because we're just thinking about, how do I get this person to be in a way that I can then achieve my goal. The only moment where we can live our life is the present moment, right? Also be 100% there and see how many of your suffering is created only because you think, oh, if I lose that contract, then maybe I cannot pay my rent in half a year, right? That's, again, it's future. Most of the problems have nothing to do with what's wrong right now. It's only that we think, oh, this might have a really bad impact on some future situation. And if we try and cultivate more of this presence, I think we can live in a more lighthearted way. Sometimes also be a little bit more creative. You know, if you really, really know what you want to do, and maybe if life has a different idea for you, you won't even see, because you're so sure want to become the president of the United States. You know, if you have that, and then, you know, there comes this idea of becoming a musician. No, won't do that.
Leander, you're speaking straight to me. I really appreciate that. That resonates with me a lot. That idea of just like living in the future, the present, or the past. We may as well limit the amount of time that we spend living in the future or the past, because can't really live there.
One of the real biggest problems in life, apart from living in the future and the past, is our want to be right, like in a contact, like I know it, I'm right, you're wrong. But also I said I'm going there, I'm going in that direction, and then the next day you realize, oh no, that was wrong, I didn't want to go there. But then sometimes our minds are like, no, I said I go there, I need to go there because I need to be right. I cannot change my opinion because everybody will think I'm, you know, not strong or whatever. We need to fight for it as well, because we say, no, this is important. I want to do that. But most of the time, to believe that the only way to look at things, and that our way is the right way to look at things, and it's the only way to look at things, really makes our life super hard, because every day we'll crush with other bubbles, with the people that have a completely different background. I mean, between cultures, it's really bad, but within cultures, same thing. If we always just try to be right only for being right's sake, because we just like to be right, but not because it's the best thing, then we're creating a lot of trouble. I think many wars are fought because of this idea that I'm right and you're wrong. And I think this is one of the biggest errors of the human mind. That was the answer to 4 questions, I think.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Land. I'll hand it over to Abby now. Questions you have, Abby? That's fantastic.
I was just going to ask if you could tell us a little bit about your book, Unfog Your Mind, and just like what inspired you to write it. Also, let me know when it's available in English so that I can read it.
It will be half a year more. I need to translate that shit, so it's going to be work. I always wanted to write a book. Like in the back of my mind, it was like, someday I'm going to write a book, because I always liked rap music, German rap, and some American rap as well. And I loved playing with language. And I even wrote a few songs myself and learned quite some rap songs by heart. And really, I smashed in American karaoke bar once by performing The Real Slim Shady, but the system broke down. So everything went quiet, like after, I think, the first verse. But then I went on a cappella, and that was so great. It's like a real dear memory. So love for language. And but then in a seminar somewhere far away from my hometown, I met a publisher, and he was actually running a publishing house in my hometown, but I didn't even know they were there. He liked my seminar, and he said, yeah, maybe we can have a dinner together, your minds. Anyway, then I found out that they published a book that 3 years prior I had in my hands and said, if I publish a book one day, I want it to look exactly like this book. And it's the only freaking book I ever said. And it was like 3 years back. And I didn't know it was published in my hometown. I didn't even check out the publisher. And then 3 years later, he's in my seminar in Bavaria, like miles and miles away, and comes to me. And the only person out of that room that said, yeah, let's talk. And then I knew I had to do it. And then so that was really cool that I didn't have to go look for a publishing house, but everything felt so natural. They said, just send us a few chapters, just start writing. And if we like it, we go on. And I liked it, and it was a big process, but yeah, it was also really fun. And for me, it's cool because sometimes I also forget all the different ideas and topics that I have. And it's all like a little compendium or something where I can just, I need to conduct a speech about topic X. Maybe I have something in my book. And so I start reading my own book. Like, I wrote that. I have no idea. I forgot. A lot of different topics in that book. The main topic is rather spiritual, like from the Buddhist tradition. It's the idea of above the mind fog, there's always the blue sky. There are all these troubling thoughts that can cloud our mind. And we were like, oh my God, if this is going to happen, and then maybe this is going to happen. And when we're not in the present moment, but if we are able to come back to the present moment, and if we're able to not believe all the thoughts we think, because they're just projections anyway, based on our bubble, based on our background, and see that 99.9% of our problems aren't problems, just problematic thoughts, then we can see the blue sky above the fog in that moment and connect with it at any moment, the blue sky. And I call it the blue bird in us, because I love snowboarding, and in snowboarding, even in Austria and in Germany, we call days where there's perfect blue sky also bluebird. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
I just call it a Carolina blue sky. That's what I call it.
Nice. That's your bubble. Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. In your thoughts, you can think the most dramatic things. There can be bloodbath in your thoughts. There can be drama. There can be broken hearts. But if you're able to find that spot in you, which is pure presence, which is being in the here and now, that is untouched by this drama, you can even feel the drama, you can even go through it like you watch a good movie, but you're a little bit more detached because you know it's not real. Like your thoughts, they have no reality most of the time. I'm not talking about people dying in war or real life tragedy that's happening to you, but for us guys who have a computer and are able to study, really 99.9% of the trouble that happens in our lives is in our heads. If we're able to see life in that a little bit detached involvement, of course we're part of it, and we can feel the love of the movie, we can feel the horror, sometimes we feel the pain and the tragedy. If one part of us in every moment stays in the present moment and gets in contact, then all the drama doesn't feel that bad, because it's It's just thoughts, it's just perception, it's just our bubble making us perceive the things as that bad. There are other people's that are in the exact same situation that don't think it's bad. So the situation cannot be bad. It must be your perception of the situation. And then it doesn't feel as real anymore. And the moment the threat doesn't feel that real anymore, it gets softer, and maybe it even gets to move away. You'll have a more lighthearted view on your situation.
That's so cool. I really want to read your book now.
Okay, Leander, I love what you're saying. I really appreciate it. We're talking a lot about like being 100% present in the moment. And honestly, that's just something that I really struggle with. I'm just like instantly, okay, how can I optimize my time in this moment? Like, let me be doing something else at the same time while I'm talking. What sort of strategies have you found work for you when you're trying to be 100% present?
There's a beautiful sentence from Eckhart Tolle. He said, the moment you realize that you're not present, you are present. Being aware of yourself, of your thoughts, is for me the first step for everything if you want to change something, because there's so many people out there who have no idea that they're not present. So there's not necessarily something bad in combining some things, like listening to a podcast while walking or while cleaning your apartment. But if I don't let it breathe at all, if I don't give it some stillness a day, like each day that is really full for me, I try to really find spots in the day where I'm not listening to anything, where I don't need to achieve anything. In our world, the whole social media world and podcasts and everything, it's so hard to switch off and just be walking, or just be talking to another person, right? Without the mobiles interrupting it, or it's a ding here and I got to check that, and then you're out of the conversation again. You can then be 100% present with a WhatsApp or the Facebook message. If you do that all the time, you're switching so many times back and forth that you're not really present with anybody. Also, it might not sound that sexy in the first thought to, okay, reduce stillness, but I want to achieve something, I want to work something. Why just go for a walk? I could listen to podcasts at the same time. Then again, I would always question the motivation behind that. If the motivation is, I need to change for me to be good, I'm not in the present moment. I'm again in the future, and I'm not in the present moment, but I'm in resistance against it. I'm in resistance against my current version of myself. And if we're doing all these things, trying to optimize everything and make it even more efficient, and then again, we could lose contact with the beauty of the present moment. And with that, we're fine the way we are. Fine is our thinking that it's not fine. And the more we teach our brain that we're not okay and that we need to be more productive and we need to be more this, we will just make these patterns even more strong in our head, and we'll be in more resistance with what is, and we'll be living more in the future where we finally have the body that we wanted to, where we finally have the position where we want to, and we'll never know if this is going to happen. And what happens if you die with 35 and you worked all your life for something you never achieved, and you've been never happy because you always postponed your happiness into a future state? Once I reach that, then I can be happy. And then you reach it and you find out you're not that happy at all. You're actually quite depressed. So many people fall into depressions the moment they reach their goals. So it's not even a guarantee that if you reach it, you're happy. Most of the people don't achieve the big goals. And if we then sacrifice our happiness because we think we need to work hard in order to be happy then in the future, then we missed so many opportunities in life for bliss and beauty and happiness. Also, be gentle about not being present, because you're not doing this to harm you or because you're silly. It's just happening.
Love that. I'm about to go out and do this road trip around the entirety of the United States. I'm a little bit nervous about the idea of meeting all these new people, having these conversations, a little bit of imposter syndrome there. As a speaker, what have you found really helps you to be more confident?
But just be there every single moment, like fully present with what is. And if you're not thinking like, I should have done this differently or upfront, it's like, only if I excel at this speech, I'm happy with myself. Only if I'm able to get 1,000 followers on Instagram through this road trip, right? Like if you have all these ideas, and you can dream, you can have idea, this is going to be a movement, it's going to be great, right? Dreaming is okay. It's only if you start believing that your life will only be okay if this thing's going to be a success, that's where the trouble is, because it's not in your hands. And if you really not only rationally, but step by step again, feel it, that it's not in your hands. The only thing you can do is be there with that person. Your full intention is to just be here and go with what is. And don't think about what's going to happen afterwards, because this is not in your hands. What works well for me to stay in the present is to not be in resistance with it, but then actually talk about it and tell the other person, actually, I'm really nervous, right? This is the first interview I'm doing on the full tour. This is presence. This is being there, letting the other person also know that you're really nervous right now. It could be the best thing, you know, being that vulnerable. It could be that the other person thinks you're really brave. Even the biggest failure, like a person running out of the room because they don't want to talk to you anymore, could turn into the most beautiful thing in your life. You know, maybe you talk about this later on the TED stage, the moment where you were sitting with Elon Musk and he left the room after a minute. It's a great TED talk, right? So this could be the foundation of your career, the worst moment of your life. You judging it, you wanting it to be different, makes it a horrible experience. Or the more you really make these experiences again and again and check all the time again, is this really bad or is it just my thought? You won't have anything to lose. So it's good to just let go and just be fully accepting with your version on that very moment. You know, just own your weaknesses. Don't try to hide them. Don't try to fight them. And in German, it's je verletzlicher du dich zeigst, desto unverwundbarer wirst du. Vulnerable you show yourself, the less you can be hurt, actually. If you're an open book, if you say, yeah, I'm not confident right now, how can people hurt you? You've done everything.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Cool, that's great. I enjoyed it too. I really love interview formats, like just not being prepared and just going with whatever there is and having people just listening. And yeah, I would not have thought in this particular directions if you wouldn't have been there listening. So thanks for listening.